Yo, what's up, guys? We got a balance patch coming in about 2 weeks from now, together with the collab. If you missed that on the collab, check out the previous video on the collab. There were a few people that already gave some balance patch ideas. Well, this one is not just an idea. This is like, let's revamp the whole fucking game from A to Z. Holy, a little bit too much, my kind sir, a little bit too much. So we're actually going to do this. At first I thought like I'm gonna go over all of these, but I think that this is a little bit too much. So what I'm gonna do instead is I have 3 tier lists. I have the latest RTA tier list that I made for Season 35. Few units are already nerfed, such as Oliver and the Light Huareng. But I will also be looking at the Global Net 5 tier list and also the LD5 tier list. And then from those, I will pick out a few units that are either too strong or maybe also from like all the way from the bottom. So that's definitely one of those things. Well, first of all, always with balance patches, some random LD5 will be boosted to insane. That's just one of those things. Currently, I would say in the last balance patch, it was probably the Light Nina that got kind of boosted to insane. And there's always going to be something. Also, if we do check for the balance patch, last year's balance, wait, let me actually grab the one from last year. Yeah, this was the list from last year of Global Net 5s. And we do actually see over here, Shio currently super meta, Venton crazy meta, this thing in specific content super meta. So it is common that some of those units over the whole year will go from 0 to hero. So let's see which units would be on like a 60 tier and below. That would make sense to go from 0 to hero, might be even in this patch already. Also, Twin Angels, they did not really go 0 to hero, but they went pretty high up. So if we're looking at this, there is definitely a good option for any of these units to go 0 to hero. But then the big question is, who is it going to be? Most common would maybe be one of the 2 Huarengs, because those are just particularly really ass and they're more recently released. This one does have the Oblivion. Big question is, would it be reasonable for any of those to get a speed lead? Well, if we go to the Jins do have arena lead, so one of them can have a speed lead because none of them does have the arena lead just yet. This is the one that has the 5 times hit with Oblivion. It doesn't really do too much outside of that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got the Wind Jin and then into a speed lead 33. Okay, let's make this a little bit smaller, and also Jin is with a G, not with a J, whatever. So yeah, Wind Jin 33 lead. I wouldn't be surprised on that. Maybe if they want to go overdone on it, strip on S3. So you have like a strip into Oblivion kind of style with multi-hit, and therefore you guaranteed land it. Could be one of those things that they could go for. But I definitely do think that he will end up being a 33 lead. That is definitely a prediction that I would make on that. Then if we look at the Huarengs, Huarengs are definitely not that easy to buff, because if you buff the Huareng on the S1 and S2, which are overlapping with water and I think also overlapping with wind, exactly, yeah. So buffing anything to the S1, S2 will also buff the Light Huareng, which is already very strong. Lead is going to be for elemental only, so they can't really change that. So that doesn't really change anything. So what they would have to do is change the S3 if they want to change anything in this. But to be honest, I don't really see a road of how to make this any better. Like, this attack cannot be countered. I could see the Huareng Wind S3 strip. So that it's going to be an insane multi-hit with strip, and then also cannot be giving any attack bar increase on that. So that could be a thing right there, and then it's a super consistent strip. If we're looking at the lights, I would say that probably the Huareng, let's just make it a little bit smaller, guarantee land. I think that that's kind of the only thing that they could do to it. Anything outside of that, I'm not really too sure. Also, looking at all of these units, I think a unit that's definitely kind of overdue of a buff, and I think that's the whole family, is Theor. But not really just Theor, I would say the whole Chimera family, and then we would say the base speed to 100. And that will give a base speed improvement of a 5 over here, 5 over there, 5 over there, 5 over there, and then also 5 over there. With the reason Zeratul nerf, I think it is fine if Zeratul becomes 100 speed. Xian definitely deserves to be 100 speed because he's way too hard to rune. To be honest, I wouldn't even be surprised if it goes to a 101. Lagmaron gets a lot more playable on 115 or 116 speed. They are usable in that sense. Rakan is already a little bit used, but it's a little bit too niche. So I would say base speed increase for all of them would definitely make all of them playable, but none of them crazy OP. Then another unit I want to zoom into, they have been around for a while already, are these Dragon Warriors, which are just very particularly ass. And let's see if the Dragon Warriors wind and water can do anything that I would say is like, hey, that would make them usable. So wind one, we do have the strip, right? Removes all beneficial effects, decrease the beneficial effects removed. Okay. Yeah, to be honest, I think they will get a buff, but both of those I'm kind of like seated on as like, I have no clue how you actually want to make those good. I could see a role for the whole Dragon Warrior family as one higher chance of Death Break, which also makes it very good for the fire one with where Temple of Chaos becomes less RNG. But I would also say as a nerf to fire, max A to B gain like 200/250%. So therefore he's not crazy OP in the Temple of Chaos anymore, because right now, Temple of Chaos, if you have the Dragon Warrior, you can get G2, G3 if you just put effort to it. It's barely mattering on what kind of rune quality you have. So I would say for the Fire Dragon Warrior, they added in a bunch of units that had max A to B gain. He is kind of fair if his max A to B gain would also be kept at 200 to 250. Because on an S2 with like Vampire, Life Drain, blah, blah, that kind of stuff, he gets about like 1,000 attack bar gain. So yeah, that's maybe a little bit busted. And I think at 200, 250, it would still be usable, but it's nowhere near gonna get you like a 10 million kind of team, because you're definitely gonna you definitely will be lapping your own team. He would still be usable, but he will be usable in a kind of sense like, okay, you still pair him next to other units, and the other units also have to do something rather than him doing everything. That's kind of what I think, but let's see if they actually will go for something like that. So that is a few units all the way from the bottom. Let's also look at a few units that are seated at the top. And in this case, I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on RTA units rather than just units that are all the way at the top. Because to be honest, I am totally fine with Leo, Amber, like Adriana, those kind of units being good. I don't really feel like they need a nerf. They're really good, but that is because they're good in multiple content. They're not super outshining in a particular content. So if we're looking at more of like RTA stuff, nerfs, then I would definitely say Venton, which is also noticeable if you go to any of those lists. You see Venton is the most played unit in game right now with a very high win rate. So it's sitting at 51.6 in the 4v4. So if he's led through on the match, he's not banned. It's actually going to a 52.6 for a highest pick unit in game. That's even he's picked 2.5 times as much as Gianna and still has a higher win rate than Gianna. Like, that's kind of the thing that we're looking at. He's by far the highest win rate, the highest pick rate out there. And yeah, there's not even anyone remotely close. Nyx is actually kind of high on that family as well. But we'll go into those kind of in a second as well. So first of all, Venton. What do we expect for nerf on Venton? So there's a few things that make Venton super strong. He does have the silence, which has double hit, and therefore it is just very likely to hit even on wrong elements. You also do have the fact that he doesn't really care about elements for the pushbacks that much. Pushback is super strong. Plus, he does do a good bit of damage, plus the branding, plus everything. So what would be a good nerf? Well, it would either be, some people say, remove silence, but I think removing silence might be a little bit too much. I would rather say probably lower attack bar pushback. I think if you lower that, currently it is a 15%er. I would probably say if you go for that and increases Thunder State by, okay. So I think that this would probably be a 10%. Either 10% or maybe even go as low as like 5%. But I think just the 10% already would tune him down by a fair bit. But maybe 5%. Or if hard nerf silence. I think it's going to be something along those lines, okay? It looks a little bit messy, but you get the idea what I'm trying to say. So that is what I expect for Venton as a nerf. A lot of people have been asking for Layla nerfs as well. So let's see what we would like to do to Layla. Because Layla, well, the easiest thing to Layla, what you could do is Layla reduce bar gain on debuff. Because currently she gets like what, the 20 bar per hit or per debuff landed if you make that a 15% or something, I think it would already be a lot lower. Megumi is definitely one of those hated units as well, so I do want to address that. I think Megumi, in general sense, just would have to strip no steal. I think that's his most fair thing. Like, him stealing shit is kind of nonsense, so I think it would be fair on that. Shio is definitely one of those oppressive units at the moment, but I think Shiho is kind of fine. Like, if you would reduce his S3 on multi-hit again, then you definitely would have issues with that. Then let's look at some LD5s, which are very strong. So if we're looking at strongest LD5s right now, Nyx definitely shines out. Gianna is kind of high up out there. These nerfs don't really change that much of like just lowering the stun rate. I don't think they will go for another stun rate lowering, but I wouldn't be surprised if they make it 50%. Valeska is still very high up in the win rate, but it's definitely if we're selecting it by win rate and we plus the number of matches, yeah, we can definitely see the matches on Nyx. 30% pick rate, very high win rate. Valeska being number 2 over here. And then Gojo being kind of like, what's 10%? It's already quite a bit lower. And then we go into Vivacha, but that's already a bit lower. So I would definitely say for the two that are highest up with high pick rate, it would probably be Valeska and Nyx. So Nyx and Valeska. Those are the two with highest pick rate. Sure, you have a Tianlang, but Tianlang is more of like always a late pick. You can actually really nice see that in this side as well, where you can see in the statistics and in the pick phase, like when is a unit picked and how good is he at that position. And you can see with Tianlang, he's really good towards more of a later stage of picking, which makes him very strong. Whereas most likely if we were to select on Nyx, Nyx is probably picked way earlier and Valeska's picked way earlier as well. So if we look at the statistics over here, yeah, Nyx has super high pick rate while being an early pick. So that is definitely a nasty unit right there. And I think we can see the same thing for Valeska. Very high win rate while being picked early. So that's just one of those things that makes a unit a lot stronger because it's spammable and therefore has a lot more matches in rather than a Tianlang, which is strong in the later pick. So Nyx, in all honesty, I am a Nyx enjoyer myself as well. Well, Nyx user, definitely enjoyer, is somewhat in the middle from time to time. But I feel like they should remove this A to B in-game passive Seki thing. And I would say make Awakening S2 to be 100%. I think that's the main thing that they should do. So currently we have an Awakening into Accuracy. Remove that shit, cut that off. Just simply remove this whole passive of attack bar gain bullshit. It's just RNG and Seki. I don't even like it at all. And just make this thing 100% on both things. That's just the main thing that I would like to see Nyx do. Be a more consistent stripper rather than it's like, oh, I'm a turn to Seki kind of shit unit. So that is something that I would like to see Nyx change into. Which I think would also make him more fair to use rather than it's like, oh, just Jesus, take the wheel. If this 30% hits a lot, I'm gonna get a ton of bar gain. And then this thing is just really annoying and therefore having a lot of RNG in it. Valeska is definitely a little bit harder to nerf because they already nerfed the part where, well, you could nerf the damage portion increase. That is the main thing that I would say is like damage portion increase. Or maybe no attack bar fail to 100%, but like 75%. Is that instantly gonna gut the unit? I'm not too sure, but I would say maybe the A to B gain to 80/90% rather than a full 100%. I think that would... Otherwise, it's like you kill something, you get full bar, you go into the S2. Imagine that this skill would actually get lowered in cooldown the moment shit is dying. That's absurd. That's absurd. But I think those 4 LDs are the LDs that I'm kind of expecting to get a nerf on. Sure, they will definitely address maybe a few other LDs. Like Tianlang could maybe be a thing that they would address. There's definitely a few good LDs. Gojo, but please give me at least one season with the Gojo. Like, don't start nerfing my Gojo already. Just give me one fucking good season with this unit, please. There's also Vivacha. See, that's quite high in here, but I think Vivacha is kind of fine, in all honesty. Ragdoll's actually making quite the comeback because we're playing more AoE. If you play more AoE, Ragdoll definitely does make a comeback right there. But it's not in ranges where it's like super OP. And Gianna, still a hated unit, but I think Gianna in current state is kind of fine-ish in my opinion. Here you could add more RNG to it by making the stun like a 50% check if you don't have any debuffs. That is definitely an option. But let's look at some of the LDs that are really bad. And that list is actually pretty long. So going back to the global LD tier list, And yeah, there's definitely a few options out there. So what I start off with is going to be the collab units of the last collab. So we're starting off with Dark Nina, and we're starting off with buffs. These are all, well, these are some buffs, and then RTA nerfs, and then buffs. So these are more global buffs, but buffs, not LD5s. So Dark Nina, I would say that she would make sense if she would be a good PvE unit. So therefore the mark has to be able to land on the boss, because right now the mark just doesn't land on the boss. Mark can land on boss. I think that would make her a very good Temple of Chaos unit. Sure, then Temple of Chaos is locked behind, well, locked. For top 10 ranks, it's maybe a little bit locked behind that, but I think at least, like, you can use your LD somewhere, so I think it's fair if that works on bosses, and then it just becomes a good PvE unit, and it has something. Dark Jin. Why do I keep saying Jin with a G? I have no clue. Jin. What do we have on Jin? Well, the thing is, Jin wants to be Dark Itadori so bad. It wants to be Rick. It wants to be Jack. Like, whatever name they give to this unit right now. So that just makes it where, like, oh, you soul protect yourself, and if the enemy is defeated, you go for that. You kind of want to get insta turns. I have no clue how to buff this unit without making it exactly the same as the Dark Itadori. That's just the weird thing with the Jin Kazama in general. Actually, for the guys that haven't seen it, animation on the Summoners War collab version looks really good on this one, like what the Summoners War original version. This one looks hella dope. Like, that even looks better than the Dark Jin itself. But yeah, how to buff it, I'm actually not really sure. Like, this is definitely one of those. You could give it the speed lead, because in the end, this is the family that I did mention earlier, that this one is the one that I expect to get a speed lead. You could give the speed lead over here, make him a Dark 33 speed lead in RTA. But then I still think he's kind of mediocre, in all honesty. So either the arena speed lead or anything along the lines of get A to B on kill. I think getting A to B on kill, plus getting your cooldown not triggered, plus then instantly going for the excess damage into the next target, that would help you out a lot. So I think the A to B on kill is a little bit more likely. The speed lead arena, I don't think so, but it could be one of those things that they do. I also do think for Sukuna, which is this unit over here, which is the free-to-play unit, it has a okay skill 1 and okay skill 2, but the skill 3 is just non-existing. I think that Sukuna will be buffed to be used in Temple of Chaos. So in Temple of Chaos, most of the time you want to have any unit with a skill 1, skill 2, skill 3 passive, so therefore skill 1 and skill 2 have high damage effects, so you don't have any wasted turns. So therefore things that are very strong is like the Jean, is the Lucas, is like the Gojo. Those things all have a passive, and that amplifies both skill 1 and skill 2. So in this case, I would say if he gets any damage increase for not taking damage, anything like that in the passive. If that is the case, that they add on top of this also a damage increase, then he's instantly good. That's all they need to do. Also seated very low and very poorly at this. Hertide should work in TOC, which is Temple of Chaos. Like, he should not lose stacks every match. Like, sure, he would be maybe very broken in Temple of Chaos, but I think it is fair that if you have an LD that's bad everywhere, let it at least be good somewhere. Well, Jean we already buffed by having the higher base speed, so that's definitely already a buff in there. Liliana is one of those units I think of more because it's a recent pickup by mine, and that is the simple thing, start in the Hell State. And then maybe you take that for like the Awakening, or I don't know what the hell you want to do that, but I would, like, you start in the other form, so therefore it's harder to kill. And that only makes her actually usable in arena defense. It doesn't really make her RTA viable straight up, but it makes it a little bit harder over there. Then definitely, like, I would be leaning more towards the units that I know, so the units that I think of. So you could go for a Lima buff with the attack bar gain, but I don't think they will do that. They could go for a Nigang buff, but I don't think they will do that. Humble recently been buffed, but I don't think they will do that. Those are the units that I do have that I could see going in for a buff. I would still like to see Dark Geralt if 4 buffs guarantee land bomb. But only if he has 4 buffs. So with 4 buffs, he just guaranteed lands all of his debuffs, which would be kind of nice to reduce some RNG in there. But most of the time Countess doesn't really like to reduce RNG, so that's just kind of the thing. And then definitely weakest units in game, which would be Leona and the pure vanilla bad thing. To be honest, I have no clue how you want to buff those. Like, want Josie passive. that's just the thing. You want to have Josephine passive, and you want to be removed from game. Like that's... I don't know how you exactly want to buff those. You could say towards the Leona, without joking, I would say is can't be death broken. That could be a way. Sure, you can still ignore defense it, which is a thing. Kind of, she wants to have a chroma passive in all honesty, but if she cannot be death broken, I think that's already a pretty solid state for her, because the death break is the one part that really lowers the damage output. So I think that could give a little bit of an edge. That slash can't be stunned. Like, those are the kind of two hard countering things on the Leona, which I could see Leona becoming a lot more meta if she's not countered by those two things. Then we also have the light Nobara. I want to be Mo Long. That's just the main thing. Like, it's the same thing what I have with the Dark Jin. I don't know how to buff the light Nobara without becoming exactly the same as a Mo Long. Because this skill is just too similar to a Mo Long, but it's just a way worse version of it, which just makes it super awkward. So yeah, curious to see what they would do on any of those. I think that these are the things that I'm expecting for balance patch predictions that are more reasonable and more likely to actually happen. Sure, you could go for all kinds of crazy things. I now just picked like a bunch of units from all the way at the top and a bunch of units from all the way at the bottom, and then kind of nerf the top, up the bottom, and then let's see what happens. So the moment that the balance patch, I will save this file actually. The moment that we do the balance patch review, which of course I will always do, we'll definitely do that video. So if you don't want to miss out on those, you gotta subscribe. That's just how it works. Otherwise, you're gonna miss those videos. But I will take this whole list and then look at it. It's like, okay, where were we actually correct, or where were we somewhat close, or what was like completely off? Because I'm curious to see. I have done these balance patch prediction videos before, but I did not really do like a recap of like, okay, how good was my prediction? So let's check that out with the balance patch review that we're actually going to be checking out this file, and then see it's like, hey, was I kind of on point with this, or was I making completely no sense? Or was Contours making completely no sense? And that's also an option right there. Guys, thanks a lot for watching, and see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.